Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got a bit of a triple header for you from a whole week of racing. First up, we're back in the ECRO World Tour with the Wevelgem Classic. So we're on the Eastern 8 route. It's up on the left-hand side of the screen there. A couple of trips through Tempest, as well as Titans Grove, and we are into it. I am in the Rainbow Chasers jersey. So a lot of the boys have started to wear some rainbow colours. And straight out of the gates, my teammate Christian Grupp, who is leading the season standings, is being very aggressive. And for me, this is really good because it's forcing people to chase right from the start. Gruppy is super aggressive, super strong as well, so he can go over and over again. And in the warm up, I honestly felt magic. I had like just one of those days where you're like, are you sure that's the correct power? So I'm feeling really good. No real thoughts of any plans at this stage, but as Gruppy gets caught, something in my mind says, all right, attack straight over the top, and off we go into about 700 watts. And I'm given a gap straight away from maybe some of the guys that had went out pretty hard chasing Gruppy. And now I've got up to about a 4-second lead, and I'm just kind of starting to settle in at about 6 watts a kilo to see what happens, to see if that gap will extend, whether they'll chase. Not putting all the eggs in one basket yet, just because there's so long to go, but making sure that I give it a bit of a chance to see what happens. Now, my expectation is that I'll probably get caught, and me and Gruppy will probably back and forth some moves throughout the race. But as we're kind of sitting steady there at 4 seconds, and I'm still feeling quite in control, um, the motivation in the pack starts to drop. I start to see some numbers more like 3 to 4 watts a kilo on the front, and that's when the gap starts to extend. And that's when I'm like, oh, do I really want to be in a breakaway for a long period of time in this race? Wasn't necessarily the plan, but oh wow, was I feeling good. So 5 minutes into the ride, and we're averaging 373 watts, which is around 6 watts a kilo based on my current weight. I'll just fast forward a little bit and you'll see that the gap's opened up to 25 seconds. So the pack has given me a bit of room, probably because there's just so much riding to go. And it's at this point where I start to think, geez, 377 average. Could I push for a 20-minute PB here? Now, usually when you want to target a 20-minute kind of power, it's the other way. You start off with intent, and then you're like, nah, not today. But for some reason today, I was like, no, I felt really fine through this part. I knew I could do a negative split, and I just kind of kept up with it. So up the little rises, I'm up closer to over 6.5 watts a kilo, as Gruppy's giving me the feedback from the pack. I've currently got a minute 40 heading into the final minute or so of Titans Grove. So the average is up to 387. I'm riding strongly, still over 400 watts here. My all-time 20-minute wattage PB is 388. So we're going to be close to that. I am lighter at the moment than I was then. So it's going to be a watt per kilo 20-minute PB. And the plan here is just to push right to the banner and see what comes out of it. Remembering the first few minutes I was sitting in the bunch, so a bit skewed there. But we're up at 388 average, which is good. And I still feel like it was hard, but I still feel quite okay in a way. So we descend the Titans Grove, and then the plan from here, I guess, is just to settle into more of a sustainable rhythm. As I take you back into down the road, 33 minutes in, I'm still averaging 366. So I'm on an absolute flyer today. As we are now in the desert, there was some scary moments in the desert. The pack caught 20 seconds in about 4K. And I thought with that kind of motivation, like if they kept that up, I was in trouble. But I still had good legs. And this was just one of those days that you wish you could find the formula for way more often in your career, because averaging 355 coming up to the hour mark, and I still felt pretty good. Normally I'd ease off down this Titans descent, but I knew that I was on for an hour PB, so I didn't take the foot off the gas too much on this descent here. and I kind of just worked through to the hour mark to get a little PB for the efforts here. So into the final minute of the first hour, I've still got a minute 44 gap on the peloton, which is good because I started to get a few cramps or signs that cramps were incoming, so I could just ease off the gas a bit after the hour mark, which was nice. So in the end, it is 353 watts for the hour, so a nice PB there. As we now get a bit of a chance to, as I said, just take the foot off the gas a bit. I wish I could find the formula for this kind of night all the time, but it's a good sign that I'm in good nick at the moment. This was a good course to try and do what I did today. Not too many descents for the most part. As we head into the final kilometre of the race now, I have eased off a little bit. You can see my heart rate's back into the 150s, but still a nice average for the entire race. And I'll show you some of the stats from this one now. I know it was a pretty boring race, so I didn't show you too much of the footage here, but I'm pretty happy with some of the stats, so we can have a look at them now. As the results come up there, it says 6.3 for 20, but it was 6.2. We take that every day of the week, though. There's the race results. Gruppy finished third. Someone slipped away in the final K, but a good result for the boys. The power curve here, I actually did 395 watts for about 17 minutes 50. So I think that's about what the 20-minute could have been if I kind of was on from the start, all the way to the hour mark where we've done 353. So really happy with the numbers. As we head into race number 2, we are on the ZRacing Power to the Portal race. There's the course on the left, minus the climb portal. Today, we're supposed to go up the Quaramont. Not sure if that's the pronunciation. But we've got a pretty decent field of riders here. And with a few races I've got coming up today, this climb portal climb was a good one in terms of the power duration that I want to focus on today. It was a pretty aggressive race because you've got quite a few guys from ESRT as well as some other guys like Steele, who always likes to be pretty aggressive out there. And it was at this point that myself, Steele, and Keo managed to get in a bit of a breakaway. And we worked together right down through into Jarvis for the most part, especially Steele and I, who don't really have many people back in the pack working with us. It was at this point, as we start to enter the Jarvis KOM, that we are joined by another rider with a massive attack to close this gap. So I'm sitting at the front, up over 400 watts, trying to make it difficult. Doing about 6.8 watts a kilo, but the gap is closing. The gap is closing very rapidly still. As we head up into Jarvis, and it was evident that we were going to be 4 riders heading into the climb, or at least close to that. So I'll take you to that now. I decided to let Keo away just before the portal. I wanted to have a big solid crack in the portal, so I thought maybe if there's someone to draft off on the way through, it might actually be helpful. Knowing the kind of specifics of this climb, how it's kind of steep at the start and then flattens out and then kicks up a little bit at the end. So because it's steep at the start, I kick into it, knowing what's ahead. The other thing with this race is I think they changed it, so instead of finishing at the top, it finishes back somewhere downtown at that kind of new finish line where the World Series race on Peak Performance finished. I knew this, so I was interested to see if other people kind of knew where the finish line was, or and that kind of situation. So we went pretty hard at the top there, but on the flat, there's still a couple of us together. Have another little dig in the middle of the portal, see what happens. As I said, I wanted a pretty good 2.5 minute effort on the portal, as that was kind of my focus for the day. But nothing eventuated from that, and legs are feeling pretty tired from some of these big burst attacks. And then interesting now with not really knowing who knows where the finish line is and who doesn't, as we head up around the top of the portal. So I try and take advantage of that by continuing through, but doesn't work. We then head down the portal, and as you can see, I'm averaging 344 watts for the whole race. So that's solid, like probably 5.5 watts a kilo. So it hasn't been an easy race, especially given the kind of surgy nature of it. It's been a really difficult little hit out actually. And down the hill, a few little like bit of cat and mouse, I guess you could say. Up on the power, relax, try again. Really one of those races as we try again, but to no avail. Heading into the downhill, bit of steering here and there as we head back into the downtown portion of the race. Stay with me. I've got a 2-minute PB coming up for you in just a moment's time once we finish this in the same ride. So head down the portal, another sprint to 17 watts a kilo. The finish line isn't there, but we continue on to try and move past there. And we have some separation as we head into the last 2.4k of the event. Now you can see on the right hand side the leaderboard, and we'll fast forward into the finish. Thought I was coming through for a nice little clear win there. But have a look at this. What a setup event. Big Gilbo, what a man. He takes it out. So, not sure where Gilbo rode, but he obviously did a different course to us. Met Gilbert up at the National. So, there's the results there. Well done to Gilbert. What a classic ZRacing event that was. Full kind of results coming up there. Then we went into my whoosh for a bit of a practice for the Nationals. So, me and Trent were there. Nick Scolari, a few of the guys. That's good to see. Didn't expect these guys there. So when that was the case, it was great. Trent and I just kind of swapped some turns, practiced some drafting on the new whoosh dynamics to get a bit of a feel for it ahead of our national championships, which is coming up. And then, as I said, I finished with a bit of a 2-minute effort up the Wollongong KOM. And I had a bit of a dip. Felt really good. The plan was to try and average over 500 watts for a little effort, and we'll kind of let it play out here. My 2-minute PB power was actually from like 2022 when I got right into esports for the first time. I did a pretty gnarly breakaway about a mile from the finish line in a race and managed to hold on, and I literally haven't beaten those numbers since. So today, at the end of this ride, including that race that I just showed you, was a 2-minute PB. So feeling strong as we kick up to the banner here in the Recon ride, up to 700 to finish. I think it might have been 5:47, something like that. So a minute 56 at 545 watts. So can't complain with the form there as we take you to the third race. Now, hopefully you're still with me. It's been a bit of a mashup of the week here, just putting it all together into one so that the avid follower can sit back and spend 20 minutes watching some of the races from the week. So back in ECRO, helping the team out here. We've got 10 laps of the Castle Crit. So for anyone who's done Castle Crit before knows it's a pretty punchy circuit. You've got the climb up to the castle 11 times. And at this point, kind of sussing out who was in the field, and I grabbed a quick look at who was in front, and I remember seeing this name last year as someone who will just sit off the front at 5.5 watts a kilo as a heavier rider, and just continue to do that for entire races. Whether good or not, I'm not sure, but I thought, okay, maybe if I jump on this guy's wheel, I can get a bit of a free tow around. And that was exactly what I tried to do here. So I've jumped up onto this rider's wheel and just watch the numbers that happen from here. We get a bit of a gap, and my only plan is to just sit on his wheel, because then I've got Gatesy back in the peloton who can just sit in and and relax and make other teams do the work. So we've got a lot of guys here from Relentless. We've got Dean as well from Restart. So some really good guys. Woo, who's been getting top 5 in SRCs lately, is here. So they caught us with momentum in the second lap, but they certainly had to work hard for it. And 4 of us managed to just sneak a small gap at this stage. So you can see the Canadian, Woo, and Noonan here. But I think, again, it'll come together. But at this stage, I've just been sitting in the wheel the whole time. Haven't had to work crazy hard for it. Kanshin tries to tell us to work, and then we just kind of laugh at him because of the power he's been putting out on the front. And it's on this lap that things start to split up again due to Kanshin's ferocious pace throughout. So once again, we're kind of up around that 450 watt range on that steeper part. But it's usually on this course you find that the next part is where things can break. And it was actually a strange spot where the break of the day got away. So AG from Relentless made a move there. Kanshin followed. And he's getting some comments about how good he is. So he followed, and I followed his wheel because I knew that it was a dangerous wheel in terms of getting away. That was pretty much my plan at that stage. And yeah, so at this stage, the 3 of us are away. As there's some comments in the chat there. Again, just cruising down the hills, letting him do the work. And we basically rode away for 3 or 4 laps together, established probably 20 to 30 seconds on the main group. I didn't do too much work at all, pretty much sat on his wheel the entire time. Maybe once every lap or so I'd do like a 20-second turn on the front when he slowed down in a spot that just didn't really make sense to me, just to make sure that we weren't going to be at risk of getting caught by the peloton if they got really motivated. But because we had a Relentless rider in here, I thought that was probably unlikely, just because they were probably the main team who could chase us back. And it was at this stage, heading in with a couple laps to go, he tried to do a bit of a downhill attack, managed to get on his wheel, but that was probably the only dangerous moment. But on the third last lap, Woo comes from the pack at about 25 seconds behind and puts in an enormous effort to close the gap. So he does a whole hill at big numbers, gets the gap to probably within 10 seconds. As you can see there, he's 9 seconds down, still working on the descent. And then on the next uphill, he continues that on. I thought I'd try and make it difficult for him. So I come to the front a little bit, and again, like I did last race, like up over 400, just to try and make him continue to work for closing that gap. But he does eventually manage to get back on. So I think he's down to 4 seconds now as we head around with 2 laps to go. Now, I think he did close to 8 watts a kilo for 5 minutes in whoosh last week. So obviously very dangerous, but usually can take him in a sprint if it comes to that. So given that effort that he's just put in and how close we are to the finish, I wasn't super concerned. I was backing myself in to hopefully win this finish against these riders. AG, pretty good sprinter, but on this kind of uphill finish, I'd hopefully be able to be okay. Kanshin really unknown. I don't think he can sprint just because of the whatever he's got going on there. So I didn't really know when to play it or how to play it, but I was just kind of being attentive as we went up the hill the last time. Wasn't super pacey. It was a bit of cat and mouse. I timed this quite poorly, in fact, but I see Woo going now, and I start to open up with about 250 to go. But AG's riding my wheel with good power. I was just lucky that I had a good sustained power and could hold on there. So didn't feel as good in the third race of the week, but managed to grab a win. There's the results there. So Gatesy 4th once the Kanshin was DQ'd, and I think Woo had private data. So for ECRO, you need to be public. season points there. We're back on top after a really good day. We won slot 1, 2, and 3 of that race. Gruppy's leading the overall season. We've got 3 or 4 in the top 10 there. Dave's actually up in third post race. So a good week, lot to digest there, but hopefully you enjoyed it. Cheers for watching.